energy crisis. Amid the continuing war in the Middle East, oil prices have surged past $100 per barrel for the first time since 2022. The global benchmark Brent crude touched a high of $119.50 per barrel today. And this is a spike of nearly 95% when compared to the prices at the start of the year. Let's take a look at the figures when we say that there's a huge jump of 95%. What are we looking at? What are we talking about? Look at this graph. Jan 2nd, 2026, at the start of the year, the price was $60.05 per barrel. On 7th Jan 2026, there in fact was a dip, $59.81 per barrel. And look at this spike, this jump, this surge all of a sudden. It's all because of the escalating situation in the Middle East. March 9, 2026, as of today, $119.50 per barrel. The skyrocketing of oil prices comes as the Strait of Hormuz, which is the world's most critical oil arteries, has been closed for nearly a week. About 1/5 of the global oil shipments pass through the narrow choke point, the Strait of Hormuz. According to reports, the prolonged conflict has created a potential supply deficit of 15 to 20 million barrels per day globally. Now, the OPEC Plus group of oil-producing nations had recently agreed to increase the output by almost 2 lakh barrels per day to cushion the rising prices. However, that hasn't offered much relief as the disruptions to international shipping are also burdening the storage facilities. In fact, the oil storage facilities in Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates and Kuwait are already reaching their limits. If crude cannot be exported through the Strait of Hormuz, major oil fields may be forced to shut down. And this could push global oil prices even higher. As Israel strikes oil facilities in Iran, Donald Trump is reportedly unhappy with Benjamin Netanyahu. And there are visuals now coming in of massive plumes of smoke, as you can see behind me, and the blackened skies over Iran have raised serious concerns. According to a US media report, Israel strikes on 30 Iranian fuel depots on the 7th of March went far beyond what the US had expected. Now, this looks like the first sign of friction between Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu since the conflict began. The report states, and I quote, "The president does not like the attack on the oil facilities. He wants to save the oil. He does not want to burn it." IDF says that US was notified before the strikes took place, but a US official said they were surprised by how wide-ranging the attacks were. Additionally, the US is also concerned that targeting infrastructure used by ordinary Iranians could backfire, as it may push more people in Iran to rally behind the regime. The strikes on oil sites could trigger a further spiral, as the IRGC has threatened to escalate retaliatory strikes and hit oil sites in the region if Iranian energy infrastructure is targeted again. And now, as the war in West Asia intensifies, New Delhi is closely watching the fallout on energy markets. India imports over 80% of its crude oil, with a large share flowing through the Strait of Hormuz. With crude prices surging and shipping routes facing security risks, External Affairs Minister S Jaishankar told Parliament that protecting India's energy security and the interests of Indian consumers remains the government's top priority.
Honorable Chairman, sir, in view of the implications of this conflict for our energy security, I also seek to address that particular concern. Government remains committed to ensuring that fully taking into account availability, costs and risks of the energy markets. For us, the interests of the Indian consumer has and will always be the overriding priority. Where required, Indian diplomacy has supported the endeavors of our energy enterprises in this volatile situation. Honorable Chairman, sir, let me conclude by highlighting the 3 guiding factors of our approach. 1. India is in favor of peace and urges a return to dialogue and diplomacy. We advocate de-escalation, restraint, and ensuring the safety of civilians. 2. The well-being and security of the Indian community in the region is our priority. We will continue to work with the governments of the region towards that end. And three, our national interest, including energy security and trade flows, will always be paramount. I'm confident, sir, that the government has the full support of this august House on this matter.
Let's go across to my colleague Rishabh, who's joining us on the broadcast with more details. We just heard what the External Affairs Minister had to say about, the situation escalating in Middle East, also saying that India believes in dialogue, India believes in diplomacy. At the same time, he says, of course, our priority is ensuring our interests first and the safety of our citizens first.
Well, Swati, if we talk about India, where is India standing in this whole conflict? India's energy, resources are at stake. India's IMEC has been put on a back burner. India's food security is also something that is being affected. All this stepped aside, there are 9 million people in Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Oman, all these countries, Israel for that matter. We have a huge diaspora there also. So while External Affairs Minister was speaking in Rajya Sabha, you should have seen 3 things here. A, we have not condemned the death of Khamenei. We have not condemned what US and Israel has done in Iran. Neither we have condemned what Iran is doing in Gulf countries or with Israel. The hits that we have seen in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Doha or other parts of Gulf countries. So one thing is very clear, India wants to be seen neutral. Yes, because of IRIS Dana, we were seen part of this whole conflict, but India has stirred itself very cleverly, saying that we are not part of this conflict. Our only contribution to this would be to bring everyone on table, given that there were certain things that came to our doorstep. We want things to be solved via diplomacy and dialogue, and that is the crux of the External Affairs Minister speaking in Rajya Sabha. One thing is also very clear, with senior sources within the government of India suggest that India is in touch with all these countries. Prime Minister himself has spoken to 8 state heads. External Affairs Minister has spoken to almost every counterpart in the region, and India till now has been ensuring that they bring these parties on table, and the whole situation can be de-escalated using diplomacy and dialogue.
All right, Rishabh, thank you very much for getting us the details. Let's move on now. Let's talk about what transpired in Parliament, staying with what happened in Parliament. Now, the External Affairs Minister noted security situation has deteriorated sharply. With the conflict spreading across multiple countries, he said the government is closely monitoring developments, with Prime Minister Narendra Modi personally tracking the situation 24/7 and is in touch with all heads of state in the region.
Prime Minister continues to closely monitor emerging developments, and relevant ministries are coordinating to ensure effective responses. Sir, the conflict has continued to intensify, and the security situation in the region has deteriorated significantly. We have noted that, in fact, the conflict has spread to other nations with mounting destruction and deaths. Normal life and economic activities in the entire region are visibly affected, and in some cases have come to a halt. We therefore reiterated our call on free march for dialogue and diplomacy and spoke up for an early end to the conflict. I am confident, Chairman Sir, that the House joins me in expressing our sorrow at the loss of lives.
Now, the region is also central to India's energy security, with many of India's key oil and gas suppliers located here in this region. The minister confirmed that 2 Indian mariners have been killed in the conflict and 1 remains missing. He also said the government has already evacuated a large number of Indian nationals, with nearly 67,000 people having crossed international borders to return home so far. India has also facilitated the relocation of students from Tehran and helped Indian business persons cross into Armenia to return safely. The External Affairs Minister said Indian embassy in Tehran remains fully operational and on high alert to assist the Indian community.
The region is key to our energy security and includes many important suppliers of oil and gas. Chairman Sir, the Gulf is also a major trade partner, accounting for almost $200 billion annually. The House is also aware that in the last decade, there has been significant investment from the region into the Indian economy. Therefore, serious supply chain disruptions and climate of instability that we perceive are serious issues. Furthermore, these include attacks on merchant shipping, where Indian nationals often constitute a large proportion of the crews. We have sadly already lost 2 Indian mariners and 1 remains missing in such incidents. I know that the House joins me in condoning their deaths.
While the External Affairs Minister was addressing the Parliament, opposition MPs resorted to sloganeering, continuously disrupting Jaishankar's speech. They raised slogans, stormed the well of the House outside Parliament.
The region is key to our energy security and includes many important suppliers of oil and gas. The region is key to our energy security and includes many important suppliers of oil and gas. There are almost 1 crore Indian citizens who live and work in the Gulf nations. In Iran too, there are a few thousand Indians who are there for study and employment. Many important suppliers of oil and gas. Chairman, sir, the Gulf is also a major trade partner, accounting for US dollars.
Union Minister Kiran Rijiju criticized the opposition for flouting House rules and questioned their intent in raising unnecessary proposals and asked the opposition MPs to act with responsibility. Even the speakers in both houses slammed the opposition for creating a ruckus during the speech and asked MPs to maintain decorum.
आप लोग क्या एक परिवार, एक आदमी पूरा देश का महाराजा है क्या? इस देश में संविधान है, इस सदन में रूल है। आप लोग अपना ही दिया वाला रूल को नहीं मानते हैं। मैं कांग्रेस के जो थोड़ा सीनियर है, जो सीनियर इस हाउस में रहे, मैं आपसे कहना चाहता हूं, थोड़ा अंतरात्मा में झांक के देखिए, आप जो ये हरकत कर रहे हैं, ये इससे क्या भला हो रहा है देश का, और संसद का गरिमा को आप लोगों ने कितना गिराया है। अध्यक्ष महोदय, मैं खंडन करना चाहता हूं और फिर से आंदोलन करता हूं। जो प्रस्ताव आप लोगों ने लाया है, अनावश्यक जो प्रस्ताव लाया है, उस पर चर्चा करने के लिए हम लोग पूरा तैयार है। आप हिम्मत है तो अभी शुरू करो, हम लोग चर्चा के लिए तैयार है।
आप लोगों से आग्रह है कि जो सवाल आप उठा रहे हैं, उसी सवाल का जवाब सरकार की तरफ से विदेश मंत्री जी दे रहे हैं। अगर आपकी चिंता है कि भारत के लोग गल्फ में हैं, भारत के लोग ईरान में हैं, मिडिल ईस्ट में हैं, तो क्या कार्रवाई सरकार कर रही? आप क्या परिचय दे रहे हैं? अगर सरकार की तरफ से आपके उस चिंता का स्टेटमेंट आ रहा है, आपके इशूज पे स्टेटमेंट आ रहा है, तो मैं आग्रह करूंगा कि आप लोग सदन को कृपया सुचारू रूप से चलने दें। आप सुनना नहीं चाहते, पहले से प्ले कार्ड लेके आए हैं। ये प्ले कार्ड लेके क्यों आए? कई बार अध्यक्ष जी ने कहा प्ले कार्ड लेकर के सदन में नहीं आया जा सकता, फिर भी आप तैयारी के साथ इस सदन को नहीं चलने देना।
Let him complete his statement. Let him complete his statement. You are not allowing him to make the statement. That is not correct. Gargaji, that is not correct. I allowed you to speak. Let him complete the statement. I will come back to you. Let him complete the statement. Please.
But what's most surprising is that the opposition that disrupted External Affairs Minister's speech were the same members demanding discussion and debate on the escalation in West Asia and India's stance on the ongoing war. Yet when the floor was given for debate, they chose disruption.
We are demanding for a discussion on Western crisis. We are very firm on that. We are demanding for a discussion because India is going to affect in a very bigger way.
इसलिए विदेश नीति पर और जिस तरीके से विदेश नीति नीलाम की है सरकार ने, उस पर चर्चा होनी चाहिए.
Let's go across to Ranjita, my colleague who's joining us in the broadcast with more details. Ranjita, पहले no trust motion पर डिस्कशन विपक्ष चाहता था, उसके बाद गोल पोस्ट चेंज कर दिया गया कि जो फॉरेन पॉलिसी है, जो मिडिल ईस्ट में, वेस्ट एशिया में सिचुएशन है, उस पर डिस्कशन हो. हमने देखा कि स्पीकर लगातार कहते रहे कि आपने नोटिस दिया है, आप ये मोशन लाना चाह रहे थे, इस पर बात कीजिए, पर बात हुई नहीं.